You know, I heard it said a long time ago that, and then a man should never have to call another man a fool. When I was growing up, it was sort of like it was just bad to use that expression, calling someone a fool. But sometimes people need to be called a fool if they're acting as a fool. So, what would a fool be? What kind of man would be considered as acting as a fool? Well, I'm sure you get as many definitions as people you would ask, but one would include a person does not act for his or her own best interest. When they do those things that's detrimental to them, that kills them. Like, for instance, you need food to eat, but you won't eat the food, you throw it away. Why? Because you don't want to eat. Whatever it is, it would save your life, perhaps. Not necessarily, but perhaps. And you won't even accept that possibility. That might be foolish. I'm sure there are more technical different definitions for foolish. But when I think about the American people, I think about the crisis that we're going through today, what we're going through with government, what we're going through with diversity, what we're going through with racism, what we're going through with money, poverty, crime, all that kind of stuff. And I see people, commentators talking about it. And when they talk about it, some of them act like they're serious. I mean, they are speaking as if, hey, this is some crap. Then you got some other commentators talking about it. They're talking about it serious, like it's serious, but they're smiling and talking about it too. Like what they're complaining about is acts of fools. But they are laughing at it as if these are foolish acts. Look what these fools are doing. And they themselves are sitting there laughing. But that laughing isn't changing anything. It might be drawing your audience back next time to make sure that they can say or hear you say something that might have a little laughter on it and not so depressing. If that's what you're trying to do and that's what you're doing, you're having a big effect. But for people who sit up there and watch, America's never been a nation that cared about black people. America has always been hateful. America has always been racist. But America would try to hide it. So they would pass a law to hold people from not showing it so obvious, making it so obvious. So they kind of go under the rug to be hateful. And, like the things they did to black people, the Dr. Kings, and called them this because they wanted to live. They wanted to breathe. And white folks didn't want them to live, didn't want them to breathe. Like Trump don't want black people or people of color to live, don't want them to breathe. And people would gang on with that. You would call that foolishness. Here is a God that you can't see, but is responsible for all existence, that have made these people of color here. The white people gonna say you shouldn't exist and do anything that make your existence be horrible. These folks so foolish, and I'm talking about people of the earth, where no one would have to suffer for anything that God has provided for, but they are so evil, so filled with hate that they pass it all up. Pass it all up. Look at the wars. You see these missiles. They're shooting up, going over in wherever these warriors. Babies blown up. Head split over here. Arms over here. Old folks split the same way. A knee over here. A kidney over here. Just blowing them up. Putin. Because he's mean enough to do it. Most folks are not mean enough to do that. But Putin is. So being mean enough to do that, that makes him the ruler over there. Don't care what you got, how much money you got, or what. Give this man a chance to set him up, his mafia team. And it doesn't matter who you are. This one man can rule everything. Why? Because he is mean. He's low down, he's dirty, and he'll kill you. You don't want to die. So you become a tool of the mean, low down, dirty, foolish murderer. And that's what Trump wants. So Trump, we already know he wants that. He has already chosen those sycophants, those people that would allow him to build up enough hatred amongst the people so that he will be able to, you know, have that kind of control. You know, like his attorney general, you know, like the people he got in the Supreme Court, all of them to protect him. Little lightweight stuff, they'll let him get by. Little lightweight stuff they might send back to mm, someone else. But when it comes down to dealing with the truth, dealing with reality, no, that ain't happening. And he wants to be just like that. He wants to be able to kill. And it's amazing. You got lawyers and people in line, you know, like mayors and governors in line to be a part of this hate chain. You go to court, you lose. They say you can appeal. You don't want to appeal. You want to do something else. Why? Because we're foolish. We're foolish. I guess the best way to say it is that we here in America could be living as though we are in heaven. And that means all those wonderful things I tell you: food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, transportation, access to anything that's made by the hands of man that you desire, want, or need. Peace, prosperity, freedom, joy, happiness, and be able to live your dreams. All of this without lying, cheating, stealing, killing, hatred, racism, bigotry about any of that. But all of this exists, and the other does not. That's what makes not just Americans, that makes human beings fools. That makes what God has turned and has made to be magnificently wonderful, to do all the things that they love doing and to do the things that God put them here to do. But they changed. Like Donald Trump said, she was an Indian one day, then she was black. So you can say the human beings was human one day, and then they became fools. When they became fools, it was all over. They lost their jobs, they were kicked out. When they became fools, they lost their health care. When they became fools, they lost their education. Became fools, they lost their jobs. When they became fools, I'm not going to say the rest.